Hello, Dr. Joe here. So, in today's video, I've got some foods that I'm going to be sharing with you shortly. And we're going to be answering the question, which of these foods create what I call the diabetic storm? By diabetic storm, I'm referring to how these foods can make you become diabetic if you're not diabetic already. And if you are already diabetic, how these foods can make your diabetes worse. Okay, so we're gonna find out in this very video. So what are these foods? Well, here we go. First one here, this is a block of cheese. Okay, this is a block of cheese. You folks love cheese a lot. So that's the block, but obviously when you grate it, it becomes this. Okay, so this is grated cheese here. We put that down there. What else we've got? Well, we have got butter. Okay, this is a block of butter. Also, another popular food. Let's put that down there. What else? Oh, we have got coconut oil. Okay, coconut oil. Another popular food that is recommended by a lot of gurus. Next, what we've got? Oh, now, I forgot to pick up orange juice from the supermarket when I went shopping for these items. But so we've got the whole orange here. And it's not so much the whole orange that we're interested in, but the juice from the orange, okay? Orange juice. So let's have the whole orange down there. What else we've got? Okay, another popular food, olive oil. Okay, olive oil. Very, very popular. It's on the list. What else? Ooh, Mr. Popular is here. Coca-Cola, okay? Coca-Cola. So we've got that. There are more, by the way, and you're going to find out in the course of this very video. So which of these foods will create the diabetic storm? That is a question that we are going to be answering. And how we're going to do that? Well, we are going to be guided by a piece of very nice research. And it's quite interesting, and I will encourage you to please pay attention to the entire presentation because it's quite revealing. Spoiler alert, it is not the obvious one, okay? It's not the obvious one, so be prepared to be amazed at the findings of this very research. And I'll give you a summary later on in the later part of the presentation. Anyway, let's jump right in. Now, let's move on to the study. The study idea was that the volunteers, the study participants, were fed excess 1,000 calories per day that they didn't need, okay? Excess 1,000 calories a day more than they need for their daily calorie expenditure. So, now, what they did was, the study authors that is, what they did was they split the study participants into three groups. Group one, they were fed saturated fats. So the excess 1,000 calories was coming from the saturated fats. And I'm going to talk about the foods shortly. And in group two, the second group, they were fed unsaturated fats. So the excess 1,000 calories was coming from unsaturated fats. And group three were fed refined carbs. So the excess 1,000 calories came from refined carbs. So let's look at the food composition. For group one that were fed saturated fat, the foods they used were cheese, coconut oil, and butter. Okay, that's what they used. So the excess 1,000 calories came from cheese, coconut oil, and butter. For group one, this is the saturated fat group. What about group two, the unsaturated fat group? The excess 1,000 calories came from olive oil, pesto, and pecans. So they got their excess 1,000 calories from those three foods. And for group three, made up of the refined carbs, the excess 1,000 calories came from orange juice, came from soda, and candy. So as you can tell, these are all refined carbs. So what did the study authors measure? Let's look at what they measured. They had quite a number of outcomes in mind. body weight. They measured body weight. They also measured development of liver fat. Not just that, of course, liver fat tends to result in insulin resistance. They also measured insulin resistance. And there's something else we call ceramides. So the amount of ceramides the study participants had in their blood, they also measured that as well. And you're going to see the significance of the ceramides in a second. Now, let's move on to the results. What happened in the results? Well, all the study participants gained weight. Yes, they all gained weight. And this is quite obvious. If you are feeding somebody excess 1,000 calories that they don't need, they are going to gain weight. That is just common sense. So it's not surprising that the study participants actually gained weight. Next, what they also found was that all the study participants, they also developed liver fat, which is also not surprising. If you're feeding people excess 1,000 calories a day that they don't need, they're going to develop liver fat because the body doesn't know what to do with the excess calories. But the proportion of liver fat varied from group to group. So in group one, this is the group that had the cheese, the coconut oil, and the butter. Liver fat went up by 55%. Okay, 55%. And in group two, where they were fed pecans, pesto, and olive oil, the unsaturated fat group, liver fat went up by 15%. Okay, 15%. And group three, where they had the refined carbs, the orange juice, the candies, and the sodas, liver fat went up by 33%. Excellent. So liver fat went up in all three groups. However, the saturated fat group had more liver fat. They had more liver fat by a mile, I would say. Now, what else? They also measured insulin resistance. And what was clear was that the groups that had the unsaturated fat and the refined carbs, they did not develop insulin resistance. Only the saturated fat group developed insulin resistance. And in the saturated fat group, the group that had the coconut oil, the cheese, and the butter, insulin resistance increased by 23%. Okay, 23%. Not just that, in the saturated fat group as well, they also had an increase in the plasma ceramides, and that went up by 49%, a whopping 49%. And like I said, you're going to see the significance of the ceramides shortly. The point being that the unsaturated fat group and the refined carbs group did not develop insulin resistance, and neither did they develop, plasma ceramides. So, what is the significance of the plasma ceramides? So here's the thing: the fat will not usually lead to insulin resistance, which is diabetes, without the presence of the ceramides. Okay, so the point being that the ceramides and the fat, the triglycerides, they are partners in crime in the development of insulin resistance, which is diabetes. That is one of the main takeaways in this very study, and that saturated fats is what gives you the ceramides, which will then lead to development of insulin resistance, which is diabetes. I hope this is all making sense to you. Now, we're going to have a look at the study now, and one of that salient point that the study authors made. Let's have a look. Okay, so here's the study. It was published in Diabetes Care Journal with the title Saturated Fat is More Metabolically Harmful for the Human Liver Than Unsaturated Fat or Simple Sugars, as you pretty much saw in the presentation. So let's scroll down. It's a very nice study, guys. If you want to have a read, I will leave links below for you to feast your eyes if you really want to have a look. But it's quite a detailed study, I have to say. They went to town on this very study. Now, here's something that I didn't talk about earlier on in the presentation, and that's the fact that saturated fat does affect your gut microbiome. So it disrupts the good bacteria, leaving you with the bad bacteria if your diet is rich in saturated fat.
So something for you to note there. Now, here's the thing that I want to point out in their conclusion. And they're saying, the study authors are saying that consistent with current dietary recommendations, the current study shows that saturated fat is the most harmful dietary constituent regarding liver fat accumulation, because non-alcoholic fatty liver disease increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. Avoidance of foods rich in saturated fats might also help in the prevention of diabetes. So one other point that I thought I should let you guys into.
Okay, so a couple of lessons from this very video. So before we talk about them though, just a quick plug. This is my book on managing high blood pressure with lifestyle approach. Links to get a book right below this very video. So lesson number 1, what is it? Well, it is that if you consume excess calories than you need for your daily energy expenditure, then you are going to gain weight. And I'm sure you knew that already. But that is lesson number 1. Now, arising from lesson number 1 is that if you also consume excess calories than you need daily, then your body's not going to know what to do with these excess calories coming in, and your body is going to be making fatty acids and triglycerides, and these fatty acids and triglycerides will be dumped in the liver as well as your muscles. And when you have fat being dumped in your liver, that by definition is fatty liver. And fatty liver is a one-way street to developing insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So that's lesson number 2. Now, talking about type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance, what is the quickest way to get there? Well, as you saw in this very presentation, it is by consuming saturated fat. Okay, if you're eating foods that are high in saturated fat, then you are really asking for type 2 diabetes. And if you're already diabetic, you will be making the management of your diabetes worse. You'll be making your insulin resistance worse, regardless of whether you're eating high protein foods and you think that you're having nice blood sugars. Well, your insulin resistance is getting worse as you consume saturated fats if you are already diabetic. And why are saturated fats that bad for you? Well, as you saw in the presentation, they do foster the development of ceramides, and ceramides mediate the development of insulin resistance. Okay, ceramides are mediators for the development of insulin resistance, which results in type 2 diabetes. And of course, if you're already diabetic and you're consuming these foods, then you'll be making more ceramides, which will make your insulin resistance worse. So I'm hoping that you got some lessons, you learned something from this very video. If you did, if you got some value, please give the video a thumbs up, please like the video, and also please share this video with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues. If you got any questions, any comments regarding the content of this video presentation, in particular, I want to know which of these foods you consume often. Please let me know in the comment section. I think that's it for this video. Until next time, well, this is Dr. Joe signing